We are back with another episode. Joining us today, we have the one and only Josh Pound-Quinn from the Double Clutch UK. Josh, how are you, man?
I'm good, thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be officially in the zone again.
Nice.
You know what? I love references. You know what? I'm going to quickly say this. Anyone ever watched the basketball anime? Kuroko's basketball. James, remember I told you to watch it on the podcast?
I haven't watched it yet. But...
Cool. So if you watch it, I won't. Low-key spoiler alert. But when they're like in basketball, when they're playing basketball and they're going in, like, and they're like LeBron mode, right? And when they catch it's called the zone. You know how that works, and they called it a thing. So now when I watched it, I was just like, it all makes sense now. But welcome to another episode from the Zone. As you already know, Josh, thank you very much for joining us. Also, we have the originals. James Lewis, how are you, bro?
Yeah, I can't complain. Melo's doing well. Bonzo's getting there, so I'm all good on my fronts.
Richard, try and not mention Westbrook in your intro.
Oh, what are you going to say, man? I've got more Lillard agenda today, anyways. So, it's not about Westbrook today.
Listen, Lillard made the All-Star and Westbrook didn't. So there you go. That's all I'm saying.
Facts are facts.
Basketball politics, man. You know it is.
Okay, so let's sort out the big thing that's come out yesterday. The All-Star reserves came out. I think we should start off with the East, right? So let's go to the East. You have James Harden. That's fine. 9-time All-Star. Zach LaVine.
Yep.
Vucevic. Julius Randle, Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Now, I'm going to ask you guys first. Are there anyone from the East that should have been there? And if so, for who?
I've got a few. If you, well, firstly, I think as a hardcore Celtics fan, I painfully have to admit that Celtics should almost be punished for recent form by having one of their All-Stars removed and replaced. But I would say that the biggest kind of case of, biggest surprise, I guess, is the fact that Trae Young started last year in the East and this year he's not in the squad.
Yeah.
So in the East, along with the likes of Chris Middleton, Tobias Harris, and Sabonis, I guess those are the biggest kind of notable omissions.
Yeah, I would definitely say Trae Young, especially. He even dropped a half-court shot in the All-Star game, and to be going from that moment to now not being in the...
It's politics, though. He's not really liked. So it's like, when you're not liked, it's harder to get those kind of like things to go for you, because I think he was 11th in player picking and 6th in fan voting. So it's like, at the end of the day, I think he's kind of getting a reputation and it's hard to like shake it. And like when it comes down to...
Is it because he's been drawing a lot of fouls recently? I know I've seen on Twitter that people are trying to master that James Harden of getting fouls.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at what Steve Nash and a couple of other coaches said about him recently, they almost called it, I believe it was like anti-basketball or something.
Yeah.
So, if that's part of the voting body, then you can only imagine it is politics, because Trae Young is top 10 scorer and he's the only top 10 scorer in the league that isn't in the All-Star squad, and also, he's at this rate of scoring that he's at, which I believe is like 24 points, isn't it? Oh, no, it's not. Sorry. But anyway, top 10 scorer and the only person in 30 years scoring at his rate not to make it.
But do you not think it's just wrong?
Well, that's you see scoring a ridiculous amount of points. It is basketball politics.
Yeah. Politics.
Shout out why it isn't. Because the guys that made it were Brown, LaVine, and who was the last one?
Was Brown, LaVine, and Harden.
Brown,
so he's not
and Harden. Okay, so my thing is that with the last year one, I think that was basically Trae Young's breakout season, isn't it? Where he averaged like 30 points. So I think when you're like new and you're fresh burst onto the scene, I think you do tend to get more votes.
You have more narrative. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think with this season, what it is that if you check the standings, Atlanta aren't in a playoff spot, which I think it's disappointing with the expectation that people had for them coming in. Like people were saying again, Capella back. Obviously Rondo's joining them, and people thought that he was going to take that next step. Obviously, the Mavericks aren't in the playoff spot either. But remember, it was always Trae Young and Luka in it, and Luka has really taken that step, even though the team has fallen off behind the season. But Trae Young hasn't taken that playoff step yet, which he might do later in the season. But I think that might be the reason why he hasn't been voted in. Whereas Levine now looks like this new shiny toy that everyone's excited about that they have thrown in, and he's definitely not been better than Brown or Harden this season. So, yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. Let's build it on. So if I told you a player that is averaging 27, 4, and 9 has not made the All-Star game reserved.
It's outrageous. It is outrageous. It's outrageous. Like, as much as there's great players, it's simply outrageous to be getting these kind of numbers and just being snubbed like this. It's a huge snub.
No, why is it?
It is. I'm stunned with this.
What did you say? The media voted him sixth, right?
Yeah, the media fans voted him sixth.
And then the fans voted him sixth.
Yeah.
And then next year, the players have voted him 11th. That's kind of I don't want to say it's an Isaiah Thomas moment, but remember in the last time where Isaiah Thomas
met the criteria.
I made the criteria, but I wasn't selected.
Yeah.
We should tweet that. That's actually quite funny. But,
but the thing is,
because especially as you said, as Josh said, with the quotes that people have been saying about it, and especially what people have been saying about Trae Young recently, there's no reason why someone should not make if the fans and the media have rated him sixth, why should he not be at least a reserve? The players just didn't want to vote him in. Surely.
Yeah.
No.
I think it's sorry, man. I think it's a combination of two different things. It is partially politics and him becoming less popular around the league. And then the more optimistic glass half full kind of side of me does think maybe they're rewarding winning. But you look at the likes of, Tobias Harris has an outsider's chance, but he didn't make it.
Yep.
And he can't stop winning games. So
okay, so my question is that who do you remove out of Levine, Brown and Harden?
I say
I'll move Brown.
Now, the reason I'm saying Brown is I'm going to use something that Josh said, because when we done All-Stars live predictions, I said Brown is going to make it. I said Brown's going to be a first-time All-Star this year, which I was correct. But the reason I would kind of take him out now is because, Josh, you even started on the Celtics' recent form. If a Celtics fan said that they deserve for one to be removed, that just says it all, right? And I'm sorry, if let's say if that was the rule and that was martial law, if Jaylen Brown or Tatum has to go, unfortunately, it's going to be Jaylen Brown. Now, I'm not saying Jaylen Brown hasn't deserved to be an All-Star, because prior to that, and prior to their crappy run, he has deserved. He's been getting All-Star numbers, and he's been the number 2 guy, or even 1A. Some people,
1A, 1B,
1A, 1B, however you want to call it, to Jason Tatum, who's definitely an All-Star. So I get it why he's made it, and I did say he was going to make it. But recently, if I had to swap, let's say if Trae Young, God forbid, touch wood, if Jaylen Brown gets injured and Trae Young comes in, I don't think anyone's going to be like, no one's going to bat an eye. They're going to be like, whoa, why Trae Young? You know what I mean?
No,
I think sorry, Rich. Go ahead, mate.
No, but I do think there'll be more of an outrage if Jaylen Brown didn't make it than if Trae Young didn't make it. Because, as you said, you're talking about recent form, but it's about the whole season, if you get what I mean. Whereas,
has it not been the whole season for Trae Young to have these numbers?
Yeah,
he's consistently
remember what Josh said about Trae Young. So we'll answer that question. Remember what Josh said about Trae Young, that he's the last person in 30 years with this scoring numbers to not get selected. Does Jaylen Brown have a better narrative than that? So what would we say about Jaylen Brown if he missed it? If I go look at Jaylen Brown's stats now, which are good for him, but if we compare them to what an All-Star should be, would it be that much?
But he's been the best player of the
25, 5, and 3, or let's round it up to 4 because we're nice. So he's averaging 25, 5, and 4, which isn't too bad. That's great for Jaylen Brown. And to average 25 points, that's All-Star-ish, do you know what I mean? But I wouldn't, if the person above him got 27, what was it, 27, 3, and 9 that Trae Young was getting. So I don't think anyone would cry about that. Like, to the first person to not get selected with that scoring amount of numbers in 30 years, that's something. That's this is player politics. It is.
With the Brown thing, I think to go back to what you said about Brown or Tatum, I think there's been a longer stretch of the season where Brown has been the more important player for the team. In fact, when Tatum was out for a kind of key stretch of games, Brown really did put the team on his back, whereas even when then a volume scorer has re-entered the squad, Brown has continued to perform at a high level. So I think if there was a definite fit for the All-Star game between the two, it would probably be Brown over Tatum for me personally. But to go to the politics side of things and go back to what we're saying about Trae Young, the narrative definitely works because Jalen has to be one of the most popular young players in the league internally for sure.
No, I do guess so. So I'm not saying Jaylen Brown doesn't deserve it because you can catch me in 4K saying he does. But looking at that,
I mean,
Trae Young is kind of mad.
But I think there's a bigger sub in the East than Trae Young though. I think Sabonis, I think he should have made it over. I think there's a case for him making it over Vucevic. I think Sabonis and Vucevic is the real snub in the.
Is that because of the record?
Yeah, I do think, and again, the Pacers, isn't it? Like, beginning of the season, I don't think they were going to make the playoffs, and for them to continue that trend. Remember, every season, everyone always talks about how the Pacers aren't going to make it, and always just keep surprising, if you get what I mean. So, I do think for them to maintain that level of, I won't say greatness because they're not great, but do you get where I'm coming from? For them to maintain that good level for all these years, I do think that should count for something. Especially if he's been there.
Well, why do you think Vucevic made it? Because the Pacers have a much better record than the Magic.
It's a weird one, isn't it? It's a mess because it's a bit of a jumble between kind of a meritocracy and narrative. And there's weird ones because there's a complete jigsaw puzzle where some of them are being chosen because of their statistical output, and some of them are being chosen because it's almost assumed that they should be there. And I completely agree. I mean, Vucevic had an amazing start. He has had a really, really good season. But if you're going to, like we said before, if you're going to reward winning, I'd say Sabonis obviously edges him.
So
the thing is, with the winning situation, I do sometimes think you have to think, what is the All-Star game there for? I think sometimes when you look at it, that is one thing I'd say that Trae Young has over Jaylen Brown. I think I'd much rather see Trae Young in an All-Star game than Jaylen Brown because it's not playoffs. It's just exciting. Like, he's going to shoot from half court. Like, he's going to put you through someone's legs. I think things like that, you should. Because Zion's going to dunk. I can't wait for him to break the rim. I really hope he does. But I think things like that, an All-Star game, you want those exciting players, and I think that's what really shows, because even LeBron didn't even want to play All-Star game, so the All-Star game isn't this event that they're all dying for, but it's the fact to not give it to Trae Young is
All-Stars are accolades. They're accolades that count to something. People will.
Do the players care about them as much? Seeing LeBron's reaction, it does seem a bit
definitely.
Some players can brag about how many All-Stars they've made.
Definitely, they do care.
LeBron's reaction is the reaction you can afford when you've been to 175 of them.
Yeah, exactly. There's some people
that makes sense.
There's some people that All-Star appearances are all they have.
Yep.
And all NBA, maybe we throw a cheeky all NBA in there, but sometimes the All-Star appearances are all they have, and we hold them in high regards. So
James is right though in terms of it's the entertainment factor in it, and if you look at the likes of Vucevic and Sabonis, I think that they are basically right next to each other statistically in the kind of key categories. The only difference is that you would say if one of them had a kind of sexier game than the others, it's probably Vucevic. He's a kind of more consistent outside shooter. He pops in and out, and he's just a bit of a kind of more entertaining player. Because I don't think anyone is dying out for up and unders in the up and unders. I don't think everyone's looking for that all-star footwork from Sabonis.
And to be fair, Vucevic has already been to an all-star appearance, right? To give it to Sabonis again, it's player politics, guys.
Free Trae.
Politics.
Stop bumping into players, and maybe you'll get to the next one.
Listen, he's drawing fouls. If Harden can do it, why can't
it's different though? It's different. Not everyone can be Harden. That's the thing. The problem is, it's kind of like, especially, you don't want to become another Harden. Like, you kind of want to make your own kind of name for yourself. So it's like, if you're already kind of getting that annoyance, like players are starting to get annoyed, it's not really going to work out, especially when it comes to like further down the line when you want to join like a championship team, a championship caliber team. Like, you want people to play with you. You don't want people to be like, don't really kind of agree with that kind of guy, because it's just going to affect in the long run.
Man, the Isaiah Thomas parallels just so work perfectly, don't they?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I made the criteria. When I wasn't picked. I think I've got a video somewhere. Yeah. I should play it. But anyway, we'll probably do it. That's quite funny. But yeah, looking at the West now, guys, do we think? Well, this is a discussion I think that we're all waiting for. No, you know what? First of all, let's pick up Julius Randle for making it. You know, who would have thought a New York Knicks in 2021 would have made the All-Star game? Who would have thought?
Well deserved. And who would have thought 2 years ago that Randall, when he started to take that dip in his his career, would be at this point? It's quite.
If someone told me 2 years ago that Julius Randle would ever get MVP chance somewhere, like, I would think what's going on in the world, but you know,
just got to keep your head down and play. To be honest, credit to him.
Transformed his body as well. Yeah,
he looks way more leaner and stronger, and he's playing out of his mind. So big ups to Julius Randle. What I'm going to do now is the West All Stars. So I'm going to name them. Richard, I know your guy. He calls him Lame Lillard, but we're not calling him Lame Lillard. We're calling him the most disrespected player in the league after Devin Booker, Dame Dollar.
No, it's not.
CP3, Rudy Gobert, Zion Williamson, AD, Donovan Mitchell, and Playoff P. So, guys, looking at that, like looking at the caliber of players compared to the East, obviously it's a harder pool to choose from. But do you feel like there's any snubs? Now I'm gonna let Josh. No, you know, James. I'm gonna start with you. Because the big snub that everyone's going to, and even LeBron had to tweet it, was say that Devin Booker should have got in. Bear in mind, maybe it's player politics because Devin Booker was in the All-Star game last season. Didn't he like have a mad putback? I remember watching it. He's had a mad putback.
Yeah. I think it was him.
Yeah, in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
People like that. Maybe LeBron knows player politics, guys. But enough player politics. Do you think?
Nah. He definitely got snubbed, but I wouldn't say it's player politics with Devin Booker. It is just, you look at the people that start in for the guards in the West All-Star team, it's hard to really say who you would take out. At the end of the day, Devin Booker is an amazing player, but he gets that respect. Everyone around has that respect for Devin Booker and know that he's a great player at the end of the day. I don't think he's in the Trae Young where like even coaches have come out and spoken badly about. You wouldn't find a coach say a bad word about Devin Booker. So I just think sometimes it's just unfair. Like, you're just like, even look at someone like Zion. Zion's had a great season in my opinion, but like, he was sixth. I think he was sixth in voting. And the thing is, everyone above him was amazing. It's not a case of he didn't deserve to like get the votes that they got. It's just amazing people. So I think, and I would say, I partially think that Chris Paul was the best person, has been the best player on the Suns. And I think he's really helped up this team. And I think sometimes when you have a player come in and then the team looks better, it's going to be like, okay, maybe Chris Paul's been the spark in that team. He deserves to be an all-star because of how he's taken this Suns team.
Has Chris Paul been the number one player on the Suns?
I don't think it's about who's been the best player, but I think it's the fact that Chris Paul has come over to this Suns team and now they are looking better. So it's like, okay, that's my all-star sort of thing. So it is a bit unlucky.
Yeah, for me, I think it's hard, especially in the West, to say the word snub on this occasion, because I think that, like James said, if everyone selected is kind of deserving, and they're obviously kind of unfortunate omissions, but there's, like I said before about the East, there's a level of it being a meritocracy, and some of it that just kind of, it just makes sense to put one player from the Phoenix Suns in, and you've got to choose one from the other. And it's really hard to argue with your chest anyone that should be in there, should be out of there instead of Devin Booker. Of course, people got excited by the LeBron tweet yesterday, but there were loads of people who missed out. I just think Devin Booker is that kind of omission where I think there's an understanding that it's either him or CP, and I think both are playing at a high level. I think ultimately they've rewarded CP for transforming a team. He's come in from another team, from another city, and he's added stability to that Suns organization. And that obviously has had a knock-on effect to Booker's game because it's allowed him more space, less of the offensive load, more room on the offense, way less pressure. Basically, CP's the leader now. And if you're rewarding someone from that by taking them to, he's been to the All-Star game many times, but fans want him back clearly as well. The argument for Booker is, of course, extremely strong. 24, 4, and 3, or 50% shooting, man. That is incredible. Yeah, but as always, there's only going to be one start. There's only going to be so many spots up for grabs. And with the people who are in there, it's just hard to say with full certainty that anyone deserves it less than him, in my opinion, especially in the West.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because he doesn't really get over Dame. As you said, that's the argument for CP3. Can't get over Spider because obviously the Jazz are practically, statistically, the best team in the league at the moment. And then PG as well. If PG was counted, probably PG was counted as a guard. So he doesn't really get over PG, unfortunately, because to have no Clippers players there is kind of insane. So I do get it. It is unfortunate because obviously he's been there before and he's a scorer. There's some people with the argument though that obviously, do you remember it was the bubble and they played in the play-in tournament and they went 8-0. That was without the Phoenix Suns, and this was my reasoning for saying that they're going to be good with Chris Paul. Because I said Devin Booker up the levels, especially in the bubble, and going into next season, that's probably what he's going to be playing like. Obviously, bringing in Chris Paul helps, as you said, sharing the offensive load. Him having to do way less things helps him out. As I said, he'll be a great catch and shoot guy if he plays that Klay Thompson role. But do you not feel like even though he's performing better, he could still be the number one person in the team, even though that Chris Paul is the leader? And surely, do you take the leader of a team or do you take the number one player of the team? Because would you class Zion Williamson as the leader of the Pelicans?
Yeah, I'd call Zion. I'd call, especially, it's shown in the play. At the end of the day, it is first Zion smash. Like Hulk, he goes in there, he smashes in the paint, and just give him the ball and move out the way. Like Brandon Ingram is kind of like the more all-rounded player, I'd say. But it's like, essentially, if you need those points, a lot of the first time it is Zion. So it's like, but when it comes to All-Star, I think this year, Brandon Ingram's been playing very well. Zion's been playing very well. It's just unfortunate. The Pelicans team, it's like, they just don't mesh well together. So it's like, you would always look at who's scoring the most points. And I think Zion slightly edges it when it comes to points. And leading up to All-Star, he's been getting a lot of career highs and stuff like that. And the shooting performance is looking really well. So it helps keep Zion in people's minds. So it's like, yeah, with Devin Booker, I just feel sorry for him. What do you say?
I said, I do think Zion makes regardless just the way he's being pushed. I mean, you just want Zion in the All-Star game. So whether he deserved it over Brandon Ingram or he didn't, he was going to make regardless. So there wasn't really any surprise there.
You can't say no to Zion in the All-Star.
You just
can't.
One thing you can't say no to, I was going to say, you can't say no to CP3 in the All-Star game. Didn't CP3 practically do the All-Star game last season? Like, he created the rules for it, came up with the idea.
Yeah.
So, player politics. I'm naming this episode Player Politics. But
CP3 also gets loved. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like, if you are loved and the fans vote for you, that's the thing. A lot of it is the fans as well. The fans push heavily for CP3. So
he's got over a decade of building a fan base as well. So
yeah,
and respect around the league, and obviously with his position in the union, they don't want to upset him.
Yeah.
Player politics, guys. Player politics.
But we still love you, Devin. We still love you.
Yeah. No. Listen.
It is what it is.
He can come on the Zone one day and we can talk about this.
Kardashian factor.
True. That's very true. Kardashian tax is real.
I've seen it happen to the best of us.
Hey guys, you didn't see Chris Humphries in the All-Star game?
There you go. I saw him on my team and I had to live through that. So I'll tell you that for free. Well, let's go on to some other news that broke the other day. Is DeMarcus Cousins got released by the Houston Rockets. Now, I thought well, okay, not everyone, but some people thought, linking up with John Wall and Houston, it was going to be they're in Kentucky. It was going to be the UK of, I want to say 2009. He got drafted in 2010. Yeah, I want to say it was the UK of 2009. And, the Kentucky alumni getting together. And they had some performances. I remember DeMarcus Cousins didn't look too bad this season. Do you feel like he's still available to go to another team, or do you feel like it's just downhill from here when it comes to DeMarcus Cousins?
Wait, why did they release him? What was the reason? Or
no, I think it was mutual.
It was a weird one, isn't it? They basically pulled him out of training, and they said that it was a health-related thing. But they'd said the week before that they were looking to extend him, and the ongoing discussions were happening. So obviously it falls in line with that. I personally think that kind of to answer your question, I think that he's got another kind of couple of years, but I think it's probably off the bench for a contending team. Eventually someone will pick him up for that added boost off the bench and front court depth, but it's about what his value is. And I truly don't, I think that's one of the hardest things to read about this is that what is DeMarcus Cousins actually worth in the year 2021?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I was looking at it as a Nets fan. I was thinking, obviously we've gone on with 3 players we signed like 2 seconds ago. Could we? Yeah, I know it's sad, but we knew. Could we maybe get DeMarcus Cousins? Because our defense hasn't been shabby recently, but I'm still very wary of Mike D'Antoni and what he's done to the game of basketball. So it's like DeMarcus Cousins a good fit for the Nets, as you said, a contending team that needs front court depth. DeMarcus Cousins to the Nets, maybe someone, a team like that. Do you feel like that's still possible, or with just everything that's gone on with his career, because it's kind of gone downhill? Like he's still got some good teams, the Lakers, the Warriors. Do you know what I mean? And there's been some hope for him, but it just seems to keep going downhill. Or do you feel like this is it, or do you feel like there's a couple more years he can maybe do it like Howard and somehow get a ring?
I don't think it's. The thing is that his days as a starter is probably done and dusted. I do think I do think he can go into a contender, but even if he does go, I still don't think he'll be like the first 8 players. Like he might even go a few games with DMPs, if you get what I mean. So it's one of those things that they might just chuck in if they need extra minutes. I wouldn't say he should go to the Nets because that doesn't help him or the Nets in any way. Like they need a defending center, and that is a Cousins, so there is no point of going there. But maybe somewhere like the Lakers, when Marc Gasol keeps getting foul trouble early, then you can quickly throw him in. But the market for him isn't really that big. Because you don't want to stop the growth of any young talent you're trying to bring. At the same time, you don't want to mess up the rhythm for the contenders. So I do think he'll find somewhere. I'm just not sure where, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he's just going to have to get in where he fits in. I think the problem is he's just been put in so many different scenarios and they just don't seem to work. It's like he was with AD at one point. Like they were excited about that. He's gone to the Lakers. They're excited about that. Didn't work out. So it's like essentially he just needs to find somewhere where he can stick. Like above everything, it's just no matter where, show people that you can play at that high level again and just consistently.
Do you feel like it's kind of like a Melo situation? So because at Houston he played 25 games, was averaging around 20 minutes and got 9, 7, and 2, which 20 minutes, 9, 7, 2 isn't too great. You know what I mean? This guy used to be a walking double. So do you feel like it's a Melo situation where he just needs to accept that he can't be a starting center in the league anymore? That's a kind of transition.
No, not really, because
the
Melo situation was kind of different in terms of like, first the Houston didn't really suit his game, if you get what I mean, and he was just put there because he was looking for a team, and obviously the Portland found which was the perfect fit. But besides that, Melo didn't really have any injuries. It was just for Melo to accept his role. Whereas Cousins, on the other hand, I don't think anyone has promised him that big role that he used to have. So I do think that they just see him as damaged goods, so they don't want him on the team anymore.
Yeah, and I think that, I agree with that. I think physically it's kind of people see him as damaged goods, and they also see him as a guy who's bounced around the league, and teams have given up on him. And you don't always know the full picture. Obviously, he gained a bit of a mixed reputation in Sacramento, and then that kind of went on into New Orleans. But then as soon as he started playing for contenders, usually everyone that plays with LeBron finds a way to make it work. Do you know what I mean? Like, they fit in, they know their role, and they roll with it. But it's really hard to think of, a better situation than he had recently in Houston, joining forces, like you said, with his old teammate, John Wall. He spoke out against Harden. That gained him lots of fan favor. When Harden was on his way out, he kind of he sided against him. And I think that kind of, he had a really positive start. He was playing at a high level, pretty steady contribution. He was almost like double-double. But they just didn't want to guarantee him for whatever reason. Nobody truly knows why. And I think that's a bit of a kind of a red light for some teams.
Christian Wood isn't playing as well, so
yeah,
the opportunity for him to play is there. So there must be,
been there, yeah.
Yeah, there must be something deeper that is going on. But I don't know, who knows? I mean, Houston are watch right now anyway, so they must.
They're not better than your Wizards and Westbrook, but get them. We'll go on to the final.
The Wizards are different.
We'll go. Yeah, they're in the East. That's the difference. We'll go on to our final topic now. My Brooklyn Nets. I want someone to try and convince me. It's our 7th straight win. We went over to the West, to the Pacific Division, told them this is how you play basketball, this is how you do it. Without KD, KD in 4 games. But it's starting to become #now scary hours, right? As James Harden likes to put it. So what do you guys think? Do you feel like we should start taking the Nets seriously? Because at first, obviously, the big three, it takes some time to gel. And everyone said no defense. And I saw Colin Sexton drop something on us. And I still thought, we've still got teething problems. But now 7 wins on the bounce. Even though it's just Sacramento, we just beat last night. But still, like, to go to the West and do that, that's the first time the Nets have done that in history. So are we starting to feel like, Harden's getting into his own, Kyrie's getting into it, KD coming back? Are they now looking like the team to beat in the East? Or do you still think like Philadelphia, I was going to say the Celtics, not the Celtics anymore, but the Philadelphia are the ones that are coming out of the Nets?
Wait, so with the Nets, the things that, so I don't get what people say, right?
We won't win, basically. But I think
the thing that before Harden even got there, I thought they were coming up the East anyways. And with this run, I don't think any higher of them, and I don't think any lower of them, just simply because this is what Harden does. He's an outstanding regular season player. So he wins regular season games, he puts up regular season numbers, all that stuff. So I don't think what Harden is doing now, it's surprising. I don't think it should surprise anyone, even though it is. I would say the thing that is a bit interesting is that when KD comes back, I do think there are going to be other players on the court that start to get less touches. So although the team might get better, with that, KD's not a ball stopper, but you need shots to get rhythm. And players like Joe Harris is putting up a bunch of threes, whereas when Harden first came, he wasn't. So although KD isn't a ball stopper, with 3 of them, will the chemistry still be the same with the role players? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the only thing I'm thinking. In terms of if I'm thinking higher of them or lower of them, I had them coming out of the East before Harden came. I still have them coming out of the East with Harden, and them going on 6 games to the Lakers regardless. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sort of with Rich there. I think that obviously with them now having the same amount of wins as the Sixers, they're obviously people starting to take them seriously. But if you weren't at least taking them semi-seriously before, then I don't know what you were doing. We expected runs like this from Brooklyn, didn't we? I mean, no one has really assembled that level of talent, or certainly for a long time anyway, in one team on the offensive end. So it really shouldn't be surprising with their kind of weaponry that they have at hand. Well, now they're rolling, of course, but I personally still anticipate a couple of regular season kind of defensive capitulations once this run ends. And I think ultimately, when they start taking some nights off, as the months go on, the Sixers will still top the East. But these runs like this bring to life how kind of terrifying they can be at their best. And when you have been watching basketball for years, especially with these kind of super teams, you know that ultimately it's 2 seasons. It's your regular season, which is essentially a seeding exercise. And then as soon as you get kind of a couple of weeks before the playoffs, you start to get an idea of who to really take seriously. The cute kind of offensive sets and the heavy ball rotation stops, and the best players start getting the ball in their hand, and trying to stop this basketball team on the offensive end is going to be a borderline impossible task, in my opinion. So my guess is that they're going to the finals for sure, as much as it hurts my soul to tell you that, Tony.
It's funny how like a Brooklyn Nets fan will say, like, we've beat these teams. We expect you to beat these teams.
But
it's funny how it gets spoken
I
about.
This road trip coming up, and I said, "Cool, obviously we're going to beat Sacramento. Yeah, we'll beat Phoenix." But I said Clippers, Lakers, we might lose one of them. But we gone to the Pacific Division, and like on a 5-game road trip, gone to the Pacific Division, and beat, like we're doing. Do you know on 2K where you play domination on my team?
Yeah.
Where you just do each division. So we've done the Pacific Division and just beat it like it was my team. So I didn't expect that. I didn't expect to go 5-0 in a road trip. You know what I mean? So I'll
tell you who they are, Tony. Sorry to interrupt there. I would say that for me, I see them as the basketball equivalent. The current Nets are the basketball equivalent to Taylor Swift. Now, let me explain that. Taylor Swift is a 6'2" white millionaire, and she writes pop songs about being an underdog. And I think that's what the Nets are doing right now.
Perfect.
I see where you're coming from.
That is perfect.
I see where you're coming from.
That's perfect.
You heard it here first. The Brooklyn Nets are Taylor Swift. Well, to be fair, I like a couple. I'm not a Swiftie, but I like a couple of Taylor Swift songs. No. So I'll dig it. I don't mind. No, but I do kind of get that.
It's the scariest team. It is the scariest team by far.
Yeah, it is. Like, come on.
At the end of the day, like, say someone has all these bullets and they have the most guns, you're going to be afraid of them. As much as you have your armor, you're going to think, Jesus Christ, they can hit better.
As much as we don't have armor, we just have enough. So
the thing is, I'd worry about, because you even bring it up, the Sextons thing. From time you still have that in your mind, I'd be a bit worried about that come the playoffs when you face better offensive players than Colin Sexton. So it's like, with this Nets team, it's amazing how offensive they can be. But like when the playoffs comes, we'll see how they can do it to a team like 4 games.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, obviously, Colin Sexton dropped 40 on us. But if you look at it, if you look at the teams we've actually beaten, I think above 500 teams, we're 10-1. But the teams we're going to be playing in the playoff, we're whooping them. It's the teams it's the Clevelands and who else?
But you're not getting the best shot right now in the regular season, though. Like,
no, of course not.
Yeah, so
we've got what I like about Harden is that he's just made the team better. So even Kyrie,
he's being cute. He's being cute. This is a nice one.
It's just putting up stupid numbers at the moment. Like he's just looking. I think he's still statistically the best 3-point shooter in the league right now. So Joe Harris should just move him mad, and it's just good to be a Brooklyn Nets fan. Like we deserve this, man. We
deserve this.
The other day where name people from like the 2016-2017 Brooklyn Nets team, and I was like, cool. Some of the names, guys, we've gone through it, man. We've gone through it. If I name some of these guys,
I would say, as from an organizational point of view, obviously in their favor, they've got the fact that they're in New York. But
yeah, 100%.
I would say that they've done an incredible job over the last decade. I would say, like, obviously the Billy King trade was a horrific misstep. And ever since then, I'd say Sean Marks, with the resources he has to get to this stage where we're talking about how they can outscore anyone in basketball, that's a tremendous feat. So respect to them.
100%. We have to give our credit to our Lord Sean Marks, because at the end of the day, # we go hard. Like, we've gone through it. Put it that way. I've seen my team, the Nets, go through it. So I kind of deserve to see.
Now it's starting to pour.
Yeah, no, I deserve it, man. I've gone through it, man. I've gone through it, man. I've seen some people put on that jersey, and I'm thinking, nah, they ain't it. But you know, That.
Yeah, you're speaking to a Liverpool fan who was saying the exact same thing. Like,
Oh yeah, there you go. 30 years old.
Mate, I had to watch Chase Spear in Boston midfield. I'm done.
Ah, good.
You were saying that the other day. You were saying, do you remember this guy, Jay Spearing, the new Stevie G?
I specifically remember him posing in a picture when LeBron came to the training ground, and it was not a good sight. He looked like an actual dwarf. It was bad.
Oh no.
We have an important question. Who is better out of Westbrook and Damian Lillard?
Well, one's an all-star, one's not. Question done. Do you know what I mean?
You know what any thought to that?
Hey, do you know what's funny? Obviously,
we'd like to know.
And this fact that Lillard isn't underappreciated. If I tell you what this guy has done in the last 3 games, he lost to Westbrook.
I want the season.
But here's what I'm talking about is that, and I've said before, the expectation that has been set for Lillard is so low. Like, this guy just had a minus 15 plus minus the other day. The game before that, he shot 1 for 7 from 3, minus 29, and then he lost to Westbrook 10 for 30. And all I could see were tweets about how this guy should be in the MVP discussion. Westbrook loses his first game in 7, and they're really talking about how you can't win with this guy. If probably goes to play 15 minutes a game, and I was thinking, where's the energy for when another player does it? So as I said, the expectation for Lillard is low. When he plays bad, no one talks. So when he plays good, I don't expect them to be giving you LeBron plays, if you get what I mean. That's why I said he's not underappreciated. He's right where he is, getting the recognition he deserves. What I would say is he did deserve to be a starter over Luka Dončić. That's what I would
Who's better? Who's better out of the two?
Lillard and Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one is the top 50 player of all time. One is still living off that shot he made against Westbrook. That tells you all you need to know.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh. Let me just do the sequence of Westbrook. Let me take you back to a time. I'm not sure. Was it game? What game was it? Was it game 4? Anyway, it was a playoffs against OKC, and Westbrook dribbles up the court. Lillard lets him take the 3 because this guy cannot shoot. He lets him take the 3. Goes at that, starts clapping. Yeah, I want to get the sequence. I remember seeing the sequence. Clapping, goes up the court, and just literally hits it from the logo in this guy's face and starts waving. I'm sorry. If I was Westbrook, I would have retired there and then. Like, don't ever tell me better than Damian Lillard. Like, I'm so sorry. Westbrook's good, and I'm like, as much as I like to push the agenda, but don't.
If you're talking about in 2021,
Richard, we need a straight answer.
No, the thing that in 2021, I would say Lillard is better. But the thing I've got a problem with is that the way people talk about Westbrook now is that they start saying "I told you so" because of what they said back in 2016 when he was winning MVPs and making all stuff. Like, people had a agenda against this Westbrook guy, and with that whole series, I can't lie. You see that shot he made? I couldn't sleep when he made that shot. I woke up. I was going to my lecture. I was still deep in life. Like, how did this little guy do this? I think that's why I hate him so much because he actually interrupted my sleep, my lectures. I actually couldn't think straight anymore. I'm walking down the street and I'm thinking about that little shot, like giving me nightmares. But that aside, it's one of those things that, and he's a great player, but I do think when he plays bad, they don't give him the same thing that they give players like Westbrook, Harden, Embiid, LeBron. All these other great players.
Quite often. That's
at the end of the day, I'm a Lonzo Ball fan, and when people miss and can't shoot properly, like, you'll get heat for it. At the end of the day, Westbrook hasn't really been shooting too pretty for a while, so it's like when he gets criticism, when it's down to his shooting and stuff like that, he deserves it.
No, but that's my problem. The thing is that yes, he does deserve it, but I'm saying is that because as I said, we're speaking about Lillard, and you're trying to compare him to the rest of the best in the league. We're speaking about Harden. Remember, ESPN tried to rank him in the same category with KD, Harden, and Steph. When Steph was having a slow start to the season, mainly because of team chemistry, everybody was getting up to Steph, if you get what I mean. When Harden came out of shape and all that kind of stuff, everyone was getting on to Harden. So this is never just the whole Westbrook thing. It just doesn't have that series, it seems like, as an agenda against Lillard, but it's one of those things as in, Lillard is the only top 10 great player in the league. I see that when he has a bad game, nobody talks. Which is why I say, if no one can talk when you have a bad game, then you can't have that same recognition when you do have a good game, if you get what I mean. So
I get that. Yeah, he has a better reputation than Westbrook, but you make your reputation. You make your reputation by not having bad games.
Did you decide who's better out of both?
No, but the thing that when people talk about Westbrook, they've been speaking about Westbrook like this since 2016. In fact,
Richard, let it go, man. Let it go. It's
the red pill or the blue pill.
Let it go, man.
Lillard is the red pill.
You know what?
Westbrook is the blue pill. You have to choose one.
I've got to commend the gymnastics going on here.
Yeah.
If you compare them both in the careers,
he's the next Louis Smith.
If you compare Lillard's resume and Westbrook's resume, Westbrook is clear of Lillard. It's not even close. So, and that's not. I rest my case.
Final answer.
All right, then we'll finish it up there. Josh, thank you so much for coming on. We really do appreciate it, man. Normally, we always let our guests shout out what they've got going on at the end of the video. So the floor is yours, my friend.
At #Poundcoin on Twitter, every Monday night on Double Clutch UK at Double Clutch UK. We do a Twitch stream and it's a podcast. As well as that, I do a live music podcast called the Hand Stamp Podcast. So respect, thank you.
Okay.
Before we go, the answer has not. We haven't received the answer.
I just want a straight answer, Richard.
Yeah.
Straight answer. Receiving what? Lillard and Westbrook. Yeah. Well, one is a top 50 player of all time.
No,
one is top 35. So that's what I'm saying.
So you're choosing Westbrook?
Of course he's choosing Westbrook.
No, I didn't say I'm choosing Westbrook. I just gave an answer. One is a
so who's your answer?
Who's the top 15 player of all time?
Top 15?
Yeah, you said one's the top 15 and top 25.
I said top 15, top 50.
He's played in the fifth.
I said Lillard is in top 75. Oh, I didn't say Westbrook is top 15. Like, let's not be. I'm not ridiculous here. I'm not ridiculous, but as I said, but you know what? In 2021.
Well, okay. On another one, Josh, someone asked, do you have any opinions on Peyton Pritchard's nickname?
Yeah, so I've had multiple opinions, and I've really tried to push one. So obviously, Fast PP is Celtics Twitter's favorite, and then the Boston media really tried to push. I'm forgetting. P Rabbit based on the 8 Mile.
Yeah.
My personal one is the Pritchation, and I really wanted to push the Pritchation. I just think it works so much better. And also, all aboard the Pritchation train.
Richard, are you not going to give an answer? Are you not going to give an answer?
Oh, wait, one more thing I do need to say though. Did you see Lillard against Westbrook against the Lakers? Oh, he cooked them once again. But apart from that, as I said, in 2021, due to the whole COVID and injuries, Lillard has to take it. Lillard has to take it by default.
So Lillard is your choice?
Due to the injuries and COVID.
Okay, so all right, final answer, Lillard.
The COVID.
I've got one more caveat to the argument because I've stayed pretty quiet on Lillard versus Westbrook. And that's that I would say Lillard for the majority, pretty much 100% of his career, except from when LaMarcus Aldridge was really balling. Lillard has been the best player on his team. Westbrook has spent the majority of his career as the second best player on his team.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true, but Lillard knew what was getting into when he signed that contract. I don't feel players for. I don't feel sorry for when you sign that max contract. You know you're getting yourself into. So at that point, I stopped using that as an excuse. I'm saying it goes for Giannis as well. If Giannis doesn't reach where he needs to go in the next 3 years, I wouldn't feel sorry for him because he signed that contract. So
yeah,
although that is
sign it. Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, but as I said, man said I'm reading the thing and they're saying also Westbrook got carried by KD, Richard picking and choosing. Yeah, that's jokes, but yeah, as I said, if you look at their careers, it's clear as day of, as I said, in 2021, I'll give it to Lillard because Westbrook is a declining superstar. So
we got there, man. We got there.
It took a few years. I missed my train, but we got there.
Lillard can have his fun for now, but he will never have the career that Westbrook did.
You had him in the first half. You had him in the first
Well,
half.
that's true. He also had to join the MVP to get out of the first round. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we got at the end. We got there at the end. But yeah.
All right. That's going to be all for today, guys. Thank you so much for checking out the rec on the Zone. Again, thank you to @PoundCoin, Josh Coin from Double Clutch UK. Thank you so much for joining us on the rec. Guys, follow us on Twitch. We can start doing this now on Twitch live, and you can comment. That'll be nice. You know, that was fun. Stuff like that. Also, you can follow us, as you can see on our banner below. You can follow us on Twitter and Insta @thezone_LDN. On Insta @thezone LDN on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube, and peace. Until next time, people.